Greetings, fellow ukuleleans. Jeff Weinberger coming at you here with a new tutorial. Today I'd like to talk about a song from way back in 2004, Black Horse and the Cherry Tree. It was done by Tunstall. She's a Scottish artist who came out with this smash hit back then, and a lot of people comment when they hear it about the strum. That's one of the things that really strikes people, besides her amazing vocal performance, her guitar playing, great songwriting, etc., etc. It's that strum. Everyone wants to know about that strum. And this is a great way if you're sort of an intermediate player, you're trying to break out of beginner land and get out of, say, very common strums like the calypso strum, the basic rock strum, Bob Dylan folk strums, Beatles strums. Those are all well and good, and there's so much we can do with those. But sometimes you just want to go a little further. You need a little bit more rhythmic interest. And KT Tunstall is definitely an artist who understands rhythm. That's a big, huge part of her music. And this song really demonstrates that well. So let's go over the chords first. Let's get that out of the way. And then we'll get right into the strum. We'll talk for the whole rest of the tutorial only about the strum. So the chords involved are E minor and B7 to start with for the entire verse. The intro and the verse, actually. And E minor, of course, being 0, 4, 3, 2. One of my favorite B7s is 4, 3, 2, 0. It involves that open A string. And what I like about that is it's very easy to change from an E minor to a B7 in that way. They have the same shape. They have the same stair step kind of shape to them. So the chord change is super easy. So that's the way I recommend, although there is another B7 if you want to check it out. 2, 3, 2, 2. That one's fine. That involves a bar. I would find that slightly more difficult in this situation, so I do recommend highly that you use the 4, 3, 2, 0 B7. Alright, so there's the chords for the intro, for the verse. Chorus goes E minor, D, and then you have this chord that you could call it a couple different things. In a lot of music that I've seen online, they call it D6. But we could also call it B minor 7. That wouldn't be incorrect. It's a bar across your second fret. It's basically 2, 2, 2, 2. So that bar, that'll take care of it. B minor 7, D6, whatever you want to call it. That's the chord. Alright, and then we move on further into the chorus and we get a C major 7. You guys probably know that chord, but it's 0, 0, 0, 2. Single finger chord. And then we have E minor, D. And now here's a sticking point. The actual guitar chord that she plays here is a C9. That C9 has a very different sound to it on the ukulele than it does on the guitar. Here it is on ukulele. Here's one voicing of it anyway. Here's another voicing. Here's another voicing. And here's another voicing. So there's 4 ways we could play a C9 chord. They're all cool. They sound like jazz or blues. So those are great to know. But I find that on the ukulele, this C9 chord just doesn't sound as good as it does on the guitar in this situation. So instead of C9, I suggest we just do a plain old C. And that's going to work fine. I'll show you that chorus with the C chord. So you got... So that C to E minor as opposed to C9, which just doesn't sound right on the ukulele, even though technically it's the correct chord. And most of the sheet music you'll see out there has C9 as the chord. But every once in a while we find a chord that totally works on the guitar, which she wrote this instrument, the instrument she wrote this song on. But then we try to take that and put it on the ukulele, and it doesn't always work. And this is one of those rare cases, so I suggest you actually alter the C9 and make it just plain old C major. Saves you a lot of heartache. So we have all the chords that we need, And then we want to get into the strum. That's the main feature of this, and that's the whole reason we're here today. This involves a technique called muting. And, we were talking about chucks, and this is very related to chucks. But muting is actually when you play a chord, and then your left hand comes in and stops that chord from ringing. We're not doing that at the same time that we strum. We're doing it after we strum. It always comes after a strum. And so it's this part of our hand that we would basically use, the side of the hand right there, to do these mutes. So you might want to practice that. Play an E minor chord, let it ring, then have your right hand come in and mute those strings. So strum, mute, strum, mute, strum, mute, strum, mute. Great way to get used to it. And then there's going to be an awful lot of down and up strumming in this, and it would be a mistake to think that a lot of this happens on the down. Actually, quite a bit of it happens on the up. So you have to keep your hand moving. You have to keep that down and up motion going. And it's 16th notes. When we look at the rhythm in this song, it's based on 16th notes. You can break that down, though. You can certainly take this rhythm and slow it down, blow it up, I call that, and think of it as eighth notes. So we're thinking twice as slow in order to simplify it, to make this a little easier to understand, rather than think about all the 1-E-enda, 2-E-enda stuff that's going on in there. Then when we break it down, it's just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. A lot easier to keep up with. All right, first step, a down strum, a mute, and an up strum. Let's practice that. Down, mute, up. Down, mute, up. That's the first beat. Down, mute, up. 1-E and 2-E and And then if you want, you could think of it as 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and, if you prefer. Thinking of it as eighth notes if you're uncomfortable with 16ths.